You've probably seen this PSA 10 First Edition Charizard. You've probably also seen this Beckett Pristine 10 First Edition Charizard. But what if I told you they're the exact same card? Okay, not that crazy. People regrade cards all the time. But there has been a little conspiracy of sorts going around that if this is the same card, then when Gary, aka King Pokemon, first tried to regrade it, why did it not cross over? But then when Logan Paul tried to cross over the same card, it conveniently regraded over to a Beckett 10 just before his massive Mayweather fight. Now, people have already talked about this in the past, but just a couple days ago, Gary made a new video confirming that this is indeed the same card he sold to Logan Paul, which raises the age-old question, why for thee and not for me? That's the thing people say, right? Also, later in this video, I'm announcing the winner of this week's $1,000 giveaway. Now, some people have been questioning how I pick my winners and stuff, so today I'll be showing the entire process and all of the receipts, so hopefully that clears everything up. But the giveaway is still going on. Remember, all you have to do is like this video, subscribe to my channel, and comment happy 10,000 or 20,000, and you could win $1,000. It's that easy. So let's react to this new video about Gary talking about the entire story, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Shout out to the Goat Breakers for making this video. It's actually really well made.
My name is Gary Hayes, and I'm known as King Pokemon. A lot of people called me King because I had the information. I always had the biggest collection.
Probably the world's #1 Pokemon collection.
I actually remember seeing this video when it first came out, it would have been a while ago. I think it was during 2016 when this video came out. And I remember watching this and going, there is no way there are Pokemon cards worth this amount of money. I mean, this was a while ago. I was much younger and I didn't realize, the extent of how expensive these cards could actually be. And I saw this and I was absolutely blown away. And not just that, but the fact that this one guy had so many. I mean, I think everyone, when they first saw this video, was blown away. I think it really revealed how much these Pokemon cards can really be worth to a lot of people.
There's no other grade at a 10. Beckett grades so much harsher.
Yeah, pretty much the two reasons that people grade cards are #1, to keep their childhood memories protected. The other reason would be for value's sake, because the difference in one number, like between a 9 and a 10, can be a 10 times value difference.
That's actually another really interesting point that he makes, that there's kind of two main reasons people grade. The first reason, and the more important reason he says, is for their own personal collection, and then kind of the secondary reason is for value. But that might have been the case a while ago, but that's completely just turned 180 degrees on itself. Nowadays, most people grade to increase the value. I think that's pretty obvious. That's the reason PSA is closed. It's not because people want to grade for their personal collection. It's because people are trying to grade all these older cards and try and see if their cards are worth anything, right? So so it's kind of changed now. Now I think the main reason is for value, and kind of the secondary reason is for your personal collection.
We had discussions every night for hours trying to figure out what we could do to get the hobby kicked off again. We decided on grading, and so we went with PSA. That has maintained to this day. You're going to find about 8 to 10 times more PSA than you would Beckett's.
So this is an interesting thing to note, actually, because originally Gary could have gone with PSA or Beckett, and he chose to go with PSA, which seemed to have had a huge impact on the future of graded cards. Might become interesting later on.
Today, I believe there's about 125 or less PSA 10 first edition based Charizards. The equivalent to a PSA 10 Charizard would be the 9.5 Beckett.
I mean, this is probably just me, but my OCD will literally not allow me to collect 9.5s. As long as they're worth around the same amount, I have to go with the 10 every single time.
Anytime you get a 10 on one of the original cards, you're shocked. You have to remember these sheets, like I have behind me here, they were all stacked up. There were big rollers that rolled those sheets off of each other.
So this is actually another interesting thing, because obviously we can see kind of how the cards and boxes are made. But this is what I wanted to quickly talk about, is this scene. You can see that at the Pokemon facility, there's clearly a guy that's looking over the cards and, inspecting the sheets. Okay, he's not inspecting individual cards necessarily, but he's inspecting it more as a whole sheet, which is actually really interesting to think about, because now we know that, I guess we knew this before as well, but we know that they inspect the sheets, but a lot of the issues that we have with cards nowadays aren't, something that would be wrong with the sheet. It's more that once the card has actually been cut out, there's, centering issues, edges, corner wear, all that kind of stuff, and we have off-center cards, off-cut cards, and all these stuff that we've seen, especially this year because they're printing so many more. So it looks like a lot of the issues might not be before the sheet is cut, but actually after the sheets are cut. And I don't think they do another inspection once they've all been cut, because there's just too many cards to inspect, right? So that might be something interesting for them to look into.
Getting something like that in pristine condition is very unlikely, considering what they go through. 2 pristine 10s that I have, I got the first one quite a number of years ago, in a collection, that was already graded. Then the second one I got a phone call from Lee Steinfeld, Leonhart, and he told me that he found the girl who had the second one and that she was interested in selling. We made the exchange, I got the card, and then Lee and I made a video on it. And
I actually remember watching that video. It was super interesting because at the time, obviously, like, you know, there wasn't so much hype around these like first edition Charizards. I know it's always been like that holy grail, but at the time still to see like there's a card out there worth $150,000 or whatever it was simply because it's graded. I mean, that was crazy to me. And I think a lot of people when they saw that didn't really realize how rare and valuable these cards truly were. And obviously now a lot more people realize, but I mean, at the time it was very interesting. And that video will come more interesting later as well. We'll talk about that.
I knew there would never be another one.
The Pristine 10, and you got this one.
This is the video.
Right there, guys. That's incredible.
2020, when the pandemic hit in the early part of the year, suddenly a lot of people had extra time on their hands, you know, where they could sit at home, they could, you know, look back and, you know, those memories start flooding back in. Logan.
Man, it's crazy to just look at that and just think like how crazy 2020 actually was for not just Pokemon, but for like collecting in general. I mean, it was huge. Everyone was just at home collecting Pokemon cards. What a ridiculous year.
Logan Paul was one of those guys because Logan Paul was a big Pokemon lover as a kid.
We pulled the Blastoise. It's a Blastoise!
I mean, say what you will about Logan Paul. I know the guy's done some extremely questionable things in the past, but I do think he's a genuine Pokemon fan. I think the dude had a tattoo of a Squirtle on his leg many years ago, like well before the Pokemon hype. So, you know, I don't think he was in it just for the hype, but you have to also consider that Logan Paul is a really smart businessman. So did he have some idea of where he was headed with this whole Pokemon craze? Yeah, probably. But, you know, I do think he is at least somewhat a genuine collector.
And I started showing him my cards, thinking to myself, this is a lot to do about, you know, just coming over to check out a guy's Pokemon collection, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing this vid, like, I think it was like a year and a half ago or so now. And yeah, Logan literally asked Gary's son if he thinks that Gary would part ways with the BGS-10 Charizards, and the kid said, absolutely not. My dad would literally sell me into slavery before getting rid of either of those cards. And look, it makes sense, because Gary is very, very well off. And at that point, when you have those two Charizards, you're not really worried about the monetary value of them. You care more about, you know, the personal and sentimental value to you, and that's, you know, it gets to a certain point where that will trump the monetary value.
Those two Beckett cards were kind of like my identity. And Logan said, you know, I want to make you an offer on something. Took the case, he opened it up, it was full of cash. He said, I'm not going to ask you about your Beckett 10s, but for one of your PSA 10s.
So basically Logan knew that he would say no to selling his BGS 10s, so instead he made an offer on just one of the PSA 10s, because I think Gary has like 8 of those.
I want to offer you $150,000. And I think you can see on camera, I just go, like I've been offered many times before to sell the cards.
Not Lana Rose just chilling there in the background.
When he looked at me, there was a passion in his eyes, a true love and interest. You know, it's not about you're flashing money in front of me and that I have enough for my lifetime and that's it. I said, it's not for that reason, but I just feel that it's an important thing to do. And so he said, does that mean you're going to sell me one? And I said, yes.
So yeah, I mean, Logan just bought his PSA 10 Charizard for $150K, which in hindsight was a really good deal. I think those are going for double that now. But you have to also consider that it was kind of a good decision on both of their parts, because remember, Gary's got 8 of these things, right? He sold one to Logan for $150,000, okay? And that card is now worth $300,000, let's say roughly, maybe a bit more. But so yeah, let's say he got a $150,000 loss on that card. But the only reason that card is worth so much is kind of because of this whole hype that happened as a result of Logan buying this card and doing his box breaks and stuff, right? So the fact that it went to $300K was a result of this, and that means that all of Gary's other 7 went up by $150K. So his $150,000 investment or loss on this card made him, you know, like over $1 million on his other cards. So yeah, it's just interesting to think about.
I gave him the 8 PSA 10 Charizards I had, and I said, you pick which one you want. Obviously, there's little, you know, there's a 10, there's a scale, you know, from a weak 10 to a strong 10. I thought, well, it's only fair, I'll let him pick which one he wants. Pulled one out, and he said, this is the one for all of us to see. He said, this one is redder than all the other ones.
This one is redder. Logan Paul 2020. But I mean, I have to admit that Logan must have a pretty good eye if he picked the best one out of all 8 of the slabs. So good job for that.
A couple months later, somebody, I can't remember who, but somebody messaged me and said, did you hear there's a third BGS 10, a third pristine Beckett's first edition Charizard? That hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't think there would ever be another one. I went on Graham Stephan's show and on his financial channel, not a Pokemon channel.
So I remember this happening, and it was such a big question at the time because somewhere out there, someone had a $1 million Charizard slab and no one knew who it was. So there's quite a lot of secrecy around it. And then Gary went on the Graham Stephan show and offered, you'll say it in a second.
Up until about 3-4 months ago. Now there are 3 of those in existence. 3 Beckett's pristine 10s. Somehow somebody came up with one, graded through Beckett's, and a third one came out. Nobody knows who it was. We don't know who it was. I'm trying to find them. I offered, for anybody who could find that third one for me, I offered $750,000 and $50,000 finder's fee.
$800,000 in total.
Yeah, so Gary offered $800,000 in total for that card, and no one said anything. I mean, when I saw that happen, I knew it wasn't like just some, well, not a random dude necessarily, but it wasn't just like, you know, some average kind of dude that could afford it. I thought it must have been like some really rich, like Saudi prince or something that like somehow secretly got this card or something like that and just, you know, had no reason to reveal it or just wanted to keep it a secret. But I guess we'll find out who it was in a second.
4 or 5 months after.
So obviously the Mayweather fight happens, which if anyone saw was an extremely boring fight.
And I'm sitting back on the couch and I'm looking at the TV set, and now suddenly Logan comes walking out to the ring wearing a BGS 10 first edition base Charizard.
Okay, so when I saw this originally, because I was watching the fight live, I wasn't actually like super shocked because I knew Logan and Gary were good friends, right? And I just thought that he borrowed one of Gary's pristine 10s just to walk out to this fight. So I was like, okay, that's really cool, but, you know, wasn't really surprised. But yeah, I didn't realize at first that this was the third one.
BGS 10 first edition base Charizard. I almost fell over. Almost everybody in the room, they all know me real well, turned and looked at me like that. And the things that were going through my head is, why didn't Logan tell me? And then I thought, where did he get the card? I started getting pictures of it. Not only recognizing the card, where you can actually recognize slight centering differences, the holofoil stars in certain places. There was absolutely no question that that card he wore to the ring was my card. When you're grading cards, there can very often be a gray area where something falls right between grades in the grader's own mind, in that person's own mind.
Okay, so yes, of course, there can be some variance in graders, and there you know, quite often are slight differences. But the next part is what gets me.
Obviously, he took the card, he submitted it for a crossover, and he was able to get it upgraded, you know, from a PSA 10 to a Beckett Pristine. And yes, that's the same card I tried to do the same thing with, and one of the top 3 I thought were going to have a chance to get that 10, and I didn't quite get it, you know, over that little gray area between grades, and Logan was able to.
Okay, so here is when it gets just a little bit sus. Now, this is just my personal opinion. I'm just a little boy asking a little question. Beckett, I love you, don't sue me, but how is it that when this card was regraded by Gary for the first time that it didn't cross over? In fact, I actually have a photo here from the original video with Leonhart where they tried to cross over this Charizard. So this is the one that he sold to Logan. And as you can see, the front is fine, but on the back there is not one, but 2 corners that have been dinged, as well as the top edge. But if you look at the grades once Logan has regraded it, the edges are a 9.5, which makes sense, but the corners are now a 10 out of 10. So those 2 dings on the back corners of the card just magically disappeared. Now, I'm not going to make any accusations, but I will speculate and you guys can make up your own minds. So Gary, who had previously chosen to grade with PSA over Beckett, tries to regrade this same card with BGS, and they said, nope, it's not good enough, there's some edge wear and dings on the corners. Then Logan Paul tries to regrade the exact same card, and it comes back a BGS pristine 10 with no issues on the corners. Also, another thing to keep in mind, listen to what Logan says.
I did ask Logan later, and he said, Gary, I couldn't tell you. He said that, you know, I was just planning this moment for so long to wear this, you know, if I ever got to fight Mayweather, that I was...
Okay, so he's been planning this moment for months. So clearly it wasn't just a quick decision. They had been planning this reveal at the Mayweather fight for months. And Beckett knew that it would be highlighted in front of millions of people. I mean, more people were talking about the card than the fight itself. So from purely a business standpoint, it would be a great marketing decision. The amount of promo and press they got from this card was huge, and it's all because they chose to regrade this from a PSA 10 to a Beckett Pristine 10. It's interesting to think about, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Now to announce the winner of this week's $1,000 giveaway. But before I do that, I just wanted to clear some things up about my giveaways. It's come to my attention that one or more bot accounts may have won a giveaway. This is really concerning and sad to see, another thing bots are ruining in this hobby, but truly I'm most disappointed in myself for not doing more due diligence into ensuring that all winners are my deserving fans and not fake bots. If you look through my comments, there are clearly a few bot responses. I thought I picked the legit one, and he even sent me an email which also later turned out to be fake, and I was fooled. I'm really very sorry for that, and I will be more careful picking legitimate winners in the future, as I have done today. This was a genuine mistake, and for that I do apologize. I will do better next time. My giveaways have always been a way for me to give back to my community, and it's obviously no secret that it also helps me grow my channel as well, which lets me do even more giveaways. It's a win-win cycle, and I've always been transparent about that. But to be more transparent about my giveaways, I wanted to do a live stream of the picking process, but my internet just sucks at the moment, so instead I've linked an unlisted video in the description which shows the entire picking process. Because it's really long and I didn't want to put the entire thing in this video, but briefly how it works is I have to use a comment picker on every single video since the last giveaway, as well as a website for my socials. It randomly picks from my socials, and then from each of the winning names I have to use a random number generator to pick just one. It's a bit tedious, but it works. Like I said, full video linked in the description if you want to see the entire process and all the receipts, because it's really boring. Anyway, without any further ado, the winner of this week's $1,000 is Mr. Chan. Congratulations. If you could please reach out to me on any of my socials and provide proof that you are the winner, that would be awesome. I'll give him 1 week to reply, and if not, we can pick a new winner. And hopefully for next week or sometime soon, I can actually sort out a live stream where I can do heaps more giveaways for you guys live. But yeah, make sure to keep liking and subscribing. It's been a rough couple of days. A lot of people are still very upset about the whole Unlisted Leaf situation, and I understand why people are upset. Hopefully he comes back soon, but as always, in the meantime, be kind and respectful to each other, and until then, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
This hobby is safe, and this hobby is going to continue going. It's never been more popular or bigger, and a lot of that I personally attribute to people like Logan Paul.